test.
Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Birmingham. Whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are today, and wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you are welcome here. I'm so glad to be back among you. To all who are here this morning, welcome home.
We appreciate your attention to this morning's announcements. You will find the announcements in your order of service or on the slides for those of you at home. If you require accommodation during our service this morning, our ushers are available to assist. Our Whole Lives, our UU Comprehensive Sex Education Program begins in January. Registration is open at bit.ly/OWL 2022. And spots are filling quickly. If you have questions about the program or schedule, contact our Director of Lifespan Faith Development, Courtney McKinney. All are welcome to join us for our Christmas Eve service this Friday, December 24th at 4:30 p.m. If you would like to come early to do some outdoor caroling, please arrive by 4 p.m. in the Memorial Garden. Please bring cookies to share. We will have some special sharing by our choir, so you won't want to miss it. For those folks online, you will have an optional Zoom room to attend if you like. Watch your email. One last announcement is that our UU Humanist meeting will be today right after church at 11 in the library downstairs. The prelude prepares us for worship. Please rise in body or spirit for the lighting of the chalice. Universal mystery, guide us away from desire to shine light in all corners. Teach us to embrace the night, for without the darkness, we never see the stars. We would like to invite the Bodden family forward. Please be seated.
Every Sunday this month, we've woven Advent into our worship life at UUCB. Advent comes from the Latin verb advenire, which means to draw near. By lighting one more candle on our Advent wreath each week, we make visible our spirit of waiting, of expectation.
The first candle we lit in the name of hope, not just what we long for, but our trust for the best within us to rise and to grace the many endings and beginnings in our life.
We lit the second candle in the name of peace, the courage to soften and to cultivate our ability to stay present in difficult moments.
We lit the third candle in the name of joy, the abiding faith that joy unfolds whenever we're able to enter and consent to the practice of opening to possibility.
This morning, we light the fourth candle of our Advent wreath in the name of love as an invitation for the holy to dwell within us, deepening our capacity to love and to be watchful of love's presence among us. May we open to the love that awaits us in the weeks to come.
In the spirit of inclusivity and welcome, please take the next few moments to greet those around you, especially those you may not recognize. Now for our opening words. It is a good morning to be together. When winter's darkness spreads across the land and the cold seeps through our thickest coats, we hurry here, drawn by the warmth of faces familiar and new, to the welcoming walls of this house. Here, for this hour, we open our service to new understanding, reassurance, and hope, for this is a place where truth, love, and challenge meet. Welcome. It's a good morning to be together.
Good morning. I'm John Powell, a member of the board. Our church is supported by those who call our church home and by those who support the efforts of our church to change the world for the better. If this is your first time with us, please pass the plate. We're just glad you're here. If you wish to join our church this morning, please come up during the offertory to sign the membership book. We share our cash plate every Sunday with organizations whose work reflects UU values to care for marginalized persons, advocate for real and systemic change, defend our environment, and promote justice and equity for all. Today's Share the Plate will be for Greater Birmingham Ministries, a multi-faith, multiracial organization that provides emergency services for people in need and engages the poor and the non-poor in systemic change efforts to build a strong, supportive, engaged community and to pursue a more just society for all people. Our church has been a sponsor of Greater Birmingham Ministries for a long time. We appreciate your donations, either by placing them in the plate, by mailing your donations to the church, or by using PayPal or Venmo. Our church Venmo account is at UUCBHAM. Please designate whether your offering is for UUCB or for GBM. Thank you for your generous support of our church and our Share the Plate recipients. May we give in love and hope.
Now is that time in our community when we share what we carry with us this day, whether it is joy or sorrow. If there is anything that you wish me to share publicly, please be sure to let me know in advance of the service. For those of you online, please take a moment and share your joys or sorrows with us, and the rest of you put parentheses around those folks' names as you hold them in virtual space. For those of you in person today, you are now invited to come forward and drop a stone in honor or in memory of what is on your heart today. Please come forward. Today we lift up one of our new members, DeQuanica Smith, who is having some gallbladder issues and will be having surgery next week. So DeQuanica, we are thinking of you and hoping for your fast and speedy recovery. We also celebrate with two families who recently had babies. We celebrate with Allison and Marcus Tatum, who just welcomed Graham into the world on the 19th of November. And we welcome, and Jenna and Keith Weber welcomed Rosie into the world about 11 days ago. And so we welcome Rosie into the world as well. There is a meal train for the Weber family and also for one of our homebound members, Ellen Meadows. And all of that information, including cute baby pictures, you can find in our private Facebook group and also in your email. So if you're able to help with meals for those two families or just want to see the cute baby pictures, please be sure you get into our church Facebook groups to see those. We also drop a final stone for any other joys or sorrows among us today. May we keep one another in our hearts and minds as we go forth this week in love. Please take a moment to enter a meditative space. You may wish to adjust your position so that your spine is as straight as you can make it, your body relaxed, your hands resting gently in your lap. You will probably want to close your eyes and shut out all the distractions of the light. Let us take a few deep, slow breaths and begin. With vision muted, notice what your other senses are telling you. You may feel a sense of pressure in your back or your sitting bones, where your body comes in contact with your chair. You may have feelings of tightness in your shoulders, along the jawline. Release any areas of tension that you notice. Soften the neck and swallowing muscles. Release any tension you feel in your abdomen, imagining the inner organs in your body letting go of tension. Soften your eyes. Let them feel warm and relaxed, as if floating in a pool of water. Inhale, exhale. You may notice strange sensations such as tingling in a muscle or a ticklish feeling on the skin. Whatever comes to your awareness is okay. Just acknowledge it in the silence. Let us turn our attention to the sounds around us. What do you notice in the sanctuary or wherever you are today? You may hear your own breathing or a growling stomach. You may hear a neighbor shifting position, cars passing by, wind blowing on the outer walls. Having acknowledged these outward sounds, let us turn our focus inward now. Thoughts may float through your consciousness. You can just let them float on by. Feelings may bubble up from some deeper place within you. You don't have to name the feeling or put any words to it. Just notice if there is anything there for you with gentle acceptance. Now, imagine your body and mind are filled with darkness and silence. Like the deep, dark night in a wilderness, take comfort in the stillness, the restfulness of this space within you. Don't try to make anything happen. Just rest into that inner darkness. Knowing that you are safe in this moment, you can simply be. Breathe in and out. In the quiet corners within, let us sense the healing powers of the body, the amazing ability of our soft animal body to restore damaged cells, to create healthy new cells, to bring balance to systems that have gotten out of whack. Let us acknowledge, too, the creative powers of our minds and hearts. From the mysterious inner regions comes all poetry and music. From the inner dark emerges all sculpture and dance, all the art and cultures that are the heritages of humanity. Even consciousness itself, the great unsolved mystery of science, resides in the deep unknown of ourselves. Continue to be with your breath in a still, quiet mood as you rest a little longer in the darkness, with humility and awe and gratitude for all of the powers of darkness within yourself. Amen, and blessed be.
Good morning. I have some friends who are going to help me with my story this morning. Amethyst and Finn are going to help me, but I need 2 more volunteers. And any age folks can help me with this, just so you know. I'm looking for someone who's feeling a little grumpy this morning. Do I have any grumpy folks? Emmett, are you grumpy today? Come on up, Emmett. And then I need someone who likes the night. Do you like the night? You can come on up, Elena. All right. If you would come here, Amethyst and Finn will help you get costumed. Are we prepared? Ready? All right, good. So we start. There once was a child who got lost in the woods. As night began to descend, the child became more and more frightened. I'm sure any of us would be frightened too in that situation, but what made this child even more frightened was that they had always been afraid of the dark. They were more afraid of the dark than any of their friends or their siblings. They didn't know why they were more afraid than their friends or their siblings. They only knew that when the sun went down, they were always very glad to be inside in their brightly lit room. When the sun was all the way down, the only light was just a tiny bit of light from the moon and the stars. So the child got frightened, and all they could do is sit down and cry. Which they did. Soon they heard a voice say, this is our grumpy voice. Are you ready, Emmett? Can you look grumpy? Turn around, look grumpy for everyone. Grr. What's all that racket? And the child looked down and saw a mole squinting up at them. I'm lost in the wood, they said, and it's dark and I'm afraid. Well, said the mole, perhaps you can take your noisy crying a little further down the path. I hate coming out of my warm, comfortable, dark hole to tell people to be quiet. And then the child heard another voice. This would be our owl. Go back in your hole, Mr. Mole. I'll take care of this. Go back in your hole, Mr. Mole. Good job. Excellent performance. You can take a seat if you'd like to, Emma. You can sit right in the front row. Perfect. The child looked up in the direction of this newer voice that seemed to come from in the darkness, and all they could see was 2 glowing eyes looking down at them. Before they could scream, which was their first impulse, there was a flutter of wings, and the creature flew down near them. They could see that it was an owl who said, "Please excuse Mr. Mole. He hates to come out of his nice hole for anything, to be honest." At this, the child burst out crying. Even harder than before, because as frightened as they were of the dark, having a non-human animal speak to them was beyond their experience and a little frightening in itself. "No need for crying," said the owl. "If you just give me your address, I can guide you home." With that, the child did indeed stop crying, partly out of relief that someone might be able to lead him home, but partly out of curiosity as to how this owl could locate their home with or without an address. But deciding that they had little else to lose, the child choked back their tears and replied that they would be grateful to be guided home, and gave the owl their address and hoped everyone here has his or her address memorized. Everyone? In case you're approached by an owl in the woods, you will be able to be good, just checking, making sure. Never know. We're in the woods. Stark tells me there's coyotes, so we must have an owl or two. So, this strange pair headed off through the dark forest in what the child hoped was truly the right direction to their home. And when the fear left just a little bit, the child looked around, and though the moonlight was dim, they began to notice their surroundings a bit. At one point, he noticed kind of a flower that they had never seen before. And they slowed their pace a little so that they could gaze at it. That, said the owl, as they continued walking, was an evening primrose. Did you know that there are some flowers that only bloom at night? Did we know that? Did you know that, Emmett, that there's flowers that only bloom at night? There is. There are moonflowers and night gladiolas too, flowers that you would never see if you didn't go out at night. After a while, the owl said, as if musing to herself, and of course there are animals too who love the darkness. Me, for example, I love the dark. In the daytime, the light hurts my eyes, so that's when I like to go up into my tree and go to sleep. To this, the child replied, well, I like the daytime. I can see to kick a ball. I like the hot sun at the beach. When it's dark, it's just scary, and that's just boring. Boring, you say, replied the owl. She clearly had some opinions to express on this point, but just then there was a fluttering. This is you, Elena. There was a fluttering and a squeaking around their heads. Flutter, flutter, around their heads. Good job, good job. It took the child a few seconds to figure out what it was, and they shrieked, "A bat!" And they started flailing their arms to knock the creature away, shrieking the whole time. The sheep backed away, hovering just out of reach. "Excuse me," they said, "that's just my way of saying hello." "Well, hello, Mr. Bat," said the owl. "This child was out lost in the forest, and I'm helping them find their way home. You're not going to hurt. You're not hurt, are you?" asking the bat. "Well, I probably have a bruise on my backside, but I think I'll live." "But you're a bat," said the child, "a creature of the darkness. Weren't you trying to drink my blood?" No, said the bat, "but I've been eating lots of yummy insects who would have been biting you had I not been around. Anyway, I couldn't help overhearing what you said about the darkness being boring. If you want to just come a little bit out of your way, I can show you something really exciting." My parents told me never to go anywhere with strangers," said the child. And that's an important fact you all need to know. Don't go anywhere with strangers, even if they're an owl or a bat. Don't go with them, right? Okay, good. Just checking. "Well, Owl will vouch for me," said the bat. "We've known each other for years and years." Owl agreed that Mr. Bat was indeed an upstanding citizen. So the group went off the path and traveled through the deepest forest for what seemed like just a few minutes, and then they came out onto a dark beach. "Here we are," said the bat. The child gazed out onto the beach, lit very gently by the moonlight, and thought, "This certainly is beautiful, even in the dark, but I wouldn't call it exciting." Just then, there was a movement in the sand, like tiny little bubbles rising up. Then there was another little bubble, and then another, and it looked almost as if the beach in the area they were looking at was boiling. Then, out of one of those little bubbles of sand, popped a rounded shape. "Looks like we're here just in time," said Mr. Bat. As they watched, more and more shadowy shapes came up out of the sand, and soon the child realized what they were seeing. Lots and lots of baby turtles. Hundreds climbing out of the sand. This was truly exciting. Once each of the turtle shapes pulled itself out of the sand, it started crawling as fast as its legs could carry it towards the water. "When the baby sea turtles hatch," said Owl in sort of a teacherly voice, "they find their way to the water, and almost always they do this at nighttime. because to find the water, they needed darkness everywhere else to follow the moon and starlight reflecting off the water. Daytime sunlight is too bright and scattered everywhere. Oh, said the child. As they turned to leave and head back towards the child's home, Owl spoke again, as if thinking to herself, you know who else loves the darkness? Besides all the nighttime plants and animals, the moons and stars love the darkness. That's when they can really shine. Oh, they're there in the daytime as well, hidden behind a wall of light. But when that wall goes down with the sun, the stars and moon reveal their beauty. And after what seemed like a very short time, the child and Owl left the forest and walked down the street the child recognized as their own. They were very happy and relieved, but also a little sad to say goodbye to Owl, to whom he gave a very gentle hug and a thank you. He went home to his bed, extremely tired, and got ready for bed right away. Before going to bed, as a matter of habit, he bent down to turn on the night light that he always kept glowing through the night to keep the dark at bay. But before his fingers touched the switch of the night light, he smiled and pulled away his hands. He got into his bed and pulled up the covers and letting the comforting arms of the darkness soothe him to sleep. The end. Thank you to my intrepid volunteers. They make a great group of bats and moles and owls and small children. And at that, I would love for you to hum our children downstairs.
What a beautiful story. Take a moment to return to our meditation that happened right before that story. When I asked you to consider the darkness, what words did you associate with darkness? Dark matter, dark alley, dark circles under someone's eyes, keeping someone in the dark side. Most of the ways we use that term have a negative connotation. In comparison, light frequently has a positive connotation. We talk about shedding light onto something and encouraging people not to hide their light under a barrel. The light at the end of a tunnel. Let there be light. A common phrase I've heard a lot between Unitarian Universalists is that we hold one another in the light. In 1976, Robert B. Moore wrote this: "An integral part of any culture is its language. Language not only develops in conjunction with society's historical, economic, and political evolution, but also reflects that society's attitude and thinking. Language not only expresses ideas and concepts, but actually shapes thought. Today, we are exploring the ways that our language around darkness shape our thoughts." We talk a lot about words in this community. We reclaim words with alternate meanings. We talk about the importance of using people's names and pronouns. We don't do this because we want to harp on one another or nitpick each other. We do this because we all want the world to be a little more loving, a little more hopeful, a little more united. We want the people that we encounter to know that they are seen and loved. It is life-saving work. Your interaction with someone could save them from the pit of despair. And our gentleness with some words, our intentionality with our language and our word choice is one of the ways we let people know that we care. Throughout my sermon today, Robert is going to share some poetry from Reverend Dr. Kristen Harper. Here is the first.
Brave in the dark. Why must my heart break at the setting of the sun, when darkness comes with loving hands to draw me into sleep? Is not the blanket of night as warm as morning rays? Are not the stars that fill the dark sky connecting me to the world of dreams and imagination? Does not the blue blackness of night's expanse deserve our awe and admiration? Without the glare of light, I can finally see beyond the mask, beyond the robes that hide all imperfections. See the tears and the rips and the ragged scars that mark the truth hidden in the light. Yes, it takes sharp eyes to uncover the life beneath the dark ocean, but the yellows and orange and reds contained there are just as magnificent as those on land. The light does not reveal more to me than dark. Truth is, my heart is already broken, and the sun sees it not. The blazing fire in the sky does not allow me to speak more easily, to name my suffering and bask in its flares. But in the dark, my tears can fall in relief. In the dark, my scars fade, and I can sense healing. In the dark, I find freedom and can finally be brave.
My first job after graduate school led me to a scenic but isolated community in Connecticut. I thought it might help me to get a pet, so I talked it over with my friends from back home. They all agreed I needed a cat. Up until this point, I had never owned a cat, since my dad was highly allergic to them, a symptom that magically disappeared when I moved off to college. I wasn't confident that I could care for a cat. My friends assured me that with an automatic litter box, that I was indeed a cat lady. So off I went to the animal shelter down the road, eager to make a new friend. Sitting in my car and knowing that I was likely about to have my heart tugged by a lot of different animals, I promised myself a few things. I would only get one until I understood how to care for them. It must be a kitten so that we could grow up together, and I wouldn't separate any litters. The other point about which I was adamant: no black cats. I mean, they're bad luck, right? So I walked into that shelter and began to peruse. I kid you not, the universe thought this was really funny. Every single cage of kittens was filled with the darkest of cats. Litters upon litters of ebony beauty, except for one kitten who was also all black, sitting in a lowly cage, the sole survivor of a plastic bag. I decided that since he and I were alone in this new area, that we would do it together. That was 15 years ago, and although he died right before the pandemic, he taught me so much about how darkness is shunned even in the pet world. Black cats and black dogs are less likely to be adopted and more likely to be euthanized. Black cats are only considered bad luck in certain countries, and in many others are considered good luck. Sailors, especially, and their families adopted black cats for good luck on their ships. I've discovered when meeting others that there's a special kind of strange for a cat lady, and a whole nother when that person is a black cat lady, as am I. All that to say, our prejudices about darkness and blackness run very deep, so much so that they play into our superficial and our very meaningful decisions. In the words of Jackie James, black male, black list, black mark, black Monday, black mood, black hearted, black plague, black mass, black market. Good guys wear white, bad guys wear black. We fear black cats and the dark continent, but it's okay to tell a white lie. Angels and brides wear white. Devil's food cake is chocolate. Angel's food cake is white. Dark and light, black and white. What do we really mean when we use these terms? Last year at one of our pandemic services, I read from a book that mentioned how light banishes the dark clouds from our mind, our doubts, our insecurities, our depression, our negative feelings. A person of color who watched the service emailed me to let me know and to ask me to consider how that imagery was harmful for people of color. In the response that followed and the back and forth throughout the weeks, I learned two very important lessons. When we are called out for a transgression against someone else, intentional or otherwise, the best response is to apologize and do better. And number two, not all folks of color think the same things, just as we white folks don't think the same way about things. And that is a good thing. Despite all that, we should still try to do better and be better to show everyone in our community that we love them.
It begins with knowing your biases, your stereotypes, your assumptions, your judgments, and how to set them aside and receive the person who is in front of you, not the one you think you know. It begins with owning your power and privilege, your position and your comfort, and being willing to let it go. It begins with truly looking at one another, noticing that not all black and brown people look alike, are alike, believe alike, experience or react alike. It begins with reaching out, making the first move, offering the first invitation for coffee or tea, or a walk in the park, or a trip to a museum. It begins with hello, not a touching of hair or bodies, just hello. It begins with curiosity about our full lives, not about the hard experiences, not if black and brown skin burns in the sun, not about dreadlocks or braids or straight black hair. It begins with listening, not constantly centering yourselves, but to whatever is shared, whatever is believed, whatever is meaningful, whatever might connect. It begins with intention to your words, your language, your expression, and to the impact they have without dismissing or belittling. It begins with understanding, not making judgments about Christian, Buddhist, Hindu, humanist, or earth-centered faith. Understanding that there are many ways to believe all is valid, all restorative, all equal. It begins with accompaniment, following, not leading, learning, not teaching, supporting, not just taking. It begins with commitment to stay with each other through the discomfort and anger, to bridge the barrier, to build trust. It begins with accepting the joy and challenges, the quirky or protective actions, the need for space where you may not be able to follow, the need for distance that you may not be able to bridge. It begins with believing the experiences so foreign from your own, the daily fights for dignity, the trauma of life of surviving a gauntlet of hate and ignorance, the mixture of laughter and tears, passion and sorrow. It begins, whether a relationship, a friendship, or partnership, it begins with you.
Reverend Dr. Kristen L. Harper is a Black, atheist, Unitarian Universalist minister. And she wrote this book recently, The Darkness Divine, A Loving Challenge to My Faith. In her work, she shares her heartfelt poetry surrounding the issues of darkness and light, blackness and whiteness. She was raised by a white mother who empowered her to love the color of her skin and know the history of the people she represented. I honestly considered just pulling up a chair and reading the book to you this morning, but I decided there is so much wealth of knowledge in here that I want to have a book discussion in the new year that we can read this together. What I love most about this is that this is a Black Unitarian Universalist minister who is a part of our faith tradition. She understands our principles, she sees the issues we need to work on, and she loves our predominantly white denomination anyway. Some of you may be thinking at this point, why is this the sermon you chose to give the week of Christmas, Reverend Julie? This has nothing to do with Christmas. And I will respond to you with great love and affection. This has everything to do with Christmas and with Yule and with Hanukkah and with Kwanzaa. These holidays, nestled in the depths of winter, the darkest time of the year, are filled with imagery of darkness and light. But to their credit, many of these holidays balance that dark light imagery in very powerful ways. Hanukkah candles are lit to commemorate the passage of time and to encourage a focus. Yule honors the darkness and light. And although at Yule we chant to bring back the light, the other pagan holidays throughout the year embrace the darkness and the mystery within. Christmas lights symbolize Jesus being the light of the world to Christians, and his beautiful brown skin is rarely depicted at Christmas and otherwise. Kwanzaa, which we will celebrate next week, was born out of the Black Power movement. A movement that, according to Reverend Dr. Harper, wasn't about violence, but was about the empowerment of Black people. She writes, "The movement was to know our worth, to own our beauty, to develop self-respect and pride, to help one another rise economically and educationally, and shield ourselves against the forces of white supremacy. The discussion of darkness and light fits at no better time than during the holidays built around darkness and light."
I too am beautiful. Look at me. I am black and you are white, but I too am beautiful. Look at my face, my hair, my clothes. They may be different, but aren't they worthy of your gaze? Look at my walk, the way my hips sway to the music in my soul, the way my proud neck tilts to the sun. Yes, look at me. Look at my darkness. It contains light and love, rebirth and growth. Look at my pain. No, don't turn away. Look at my experience. Yes, listen. I am human. I have tears and fears. I have laughter and joy. Look at me and walk with me. I too am beautiful.
Keeping you awake this morning. Another festival celebrated this week is the winter solstice, Dongqi, a festival celebrated by Chinese, Taiwanese, Japanese, Korean, and Vietnamese persons. At this festival, these folks honor the yin and yang philosophy of balance and harmony in the cosmos. The yin and yang, symbolized by a circle of black and white tadpoles encased in a circle, describes this ancient dualist tradition. Dark and light, fire and water, expanding and contracting. In Taoist tradition, this duality has no moral judgment attached. Both darkness and light are required for harmony, balance, and peace. Lao Tzu, also known as Lao Tzu, the founder of Taoism, wrote this: "Yet, mystery and imagination arise from the same source. This source is called darkness. Darkness within darkness, the gateway to all understanding. Seeing into darkness is clarity. Knowing how to yield is strength. Use your own light and return to the source of light. This is called practicing eternity."
Hope. Hope is not just a thing with feathers that lifts in good times and wilts in harsh weather. It is a drumbeat, a stomp, a hand firmly on the hip, a sassy word, a determined lip. It drives you out of bed when the will has left, when the anger and pain leave you bereft. It's a hustle at 2 jobs to keep the family fed. It's the weary bones and weary spirits finally sinking into bed. Hope is a new day when the possibilities are ripe, when barriers shrink and energy lifts, draining all spite. With curls swaying in the breeze and lotion on my elbows and knees, I face the white world just as proud as you please, and the smile on my brown sibling's face lifts my heart to another space of conviction and determination, for it is my salvation. 'Cause no matter where my ambitions roam, with her walking with me, I am never alone.
As we celebrate this week and beyond, let us take stock of ourselves and our word choices. When we use words such as dark and light, black and white, what synonyms would we use instead? Are we attaching moral judgment or positive or negative attachments to these words? When we say, "I'm in a dark mood," do we really mean I'm in a bad mood? And if so, why don't we use the term bad? When we say we are holding folks in the light, do we mean because they need clarity or because they need more goodness in their lives? And how could we say this with more clarity and love for each other? How can we live in better balance with ourselves and our neighbors? May you explore the beauty of both darkness and light this holiday season. May you see the beauty in blackness and whiteness. May we work for a world with greater harmony, balance, and peace for all. Amen.
Please rise in body or in spirit for the extinguishing of the chalice and remain standing through the benediction. Blessed is the dark in which our dreams stir and are revealed. Blessed is the dark of earth where seeds come to life. Blessed are the depths of the oceans where no light shimmers, the womb of all earthly life. Blessed is the light into which we awake, the light that sparkles on the waters, that calls the trees forth from the seed, and calls the shadow forth from the tree. Blessed are we as we move through darkness and through light.
In this community, we recognize that what is needed is not always easy or simple. We embrace the complexities and paradoxes of our universe through our diverse thought and our diverse bodies. May we go forth embracing both the darkness and the light, balancing the two in harmony, and in our quest to love the beauty in all peoples. Go in peace.